Hi there, I'm Tim Autrey, and welcome to Principle-Based Performance Improvement, where we combine timeless wisdom with modern science and practical tools to help you move yourself and your organization toward better, safer, and more productive outcomes.
One of the biggest challenges that we have in today's world of performance improvement is overcoming, actually in all arenas, is overcoming old school thinking. And one of the big aspects of that are bad paradigms. Now, what's a paradigm? Well, first of all, I'll tell you what a paradigm is not. It's not a paradigms, okay? So here's a definition of paradigm. It's a philosophical or theoretical framework within which theories, laws, and concepts are formed and become generally accepted. So the key words here are theoretical and generally accepted. So to make sure you understand the concept of paradigms, let's talk about this guy right here. Everybody knows who this is, I would imagine, especially in the United States. This is the first president of the United States, George Washington. The question that I have for you is, do you know what caused George Washington's death? Now, if you've read 6 Hour Safety Culture, you know the answer to that. However, outside of that, a lot of people, there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misunderstanding about what happened to George Washington. So, on December 12th, he was out, that was a Thursday, he was out on his horseback inspecting the farm, his property there in Virginia, and this storm came in. It got really cold, he got really wet, and he basically caught a cold. So Thursday evening he goes to bed and he's not feeling really well, but he didn't finish all of his inspections. One of the things a lot of people don't know about George Washington was when he had something on his to-do list, he continued it until he was finished. So Friday morning he got up, he was feeling pretty lousy, but he had to finish his inspections, so he went out on his horse to continue his rounds. He came back about midday on Friday, so that was December 13th. Friday the 13th, how about that? And he was feeling really, really lousy. So he actually went to bed early that night. And again, that was very unusual for him because he usually did not go to bed until he had finished his whole list of to-dos for the day. Well, on this particular night, he did. So in the early hours of Saturday morning, he awakened and he was having a lot of trouble breathing. So he probably had pneumonia, I would guess. And he called the assistant on his farm who was skilled in administering the cutting-edge medical technique of the day, which was bloodletting. So the reason the concept of bloodletting and the reason they did it was because of a bad paradigm. The paradigm was disease or sickness is caused by bad blood. You let some of the blood out, you're going to feel better. How do we feel about that today? It's insane. But at the time, it was top-of-the-line medical practice because of that bad paradigm. Well, when you read the story here, later on Saturday morning, he still was having trouble breathing. They did mustard plasters and all that other stuff that they did back then. And the 3 doctors from the surrounding area came to continue to administer the bloodletting process. There's no exact measurement, but by all accounts of the people that were there, they bled about 40% of George Washington's blood out of his body. Now, is that going to help him get better? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, in a lot of aspects, they probably hastened his death and maybe even killed him. So, he died because of a bad paradigm. Are there bad paradigms in the world today? Of course there are, especially when it comes to human performance. So we have paradigms involved in old school thinking. We also have a lot of dogma. Now, the definition that I love for dogma, because a lot of people think it's, religion and stuff like that, and there's a lot of dogma everywhere. I have a very simple definition of dogma. Dogma is simply living by somebody else's rules. And as far as I'm concerned, dogma is the greatest enemy of true performance improvement. Bad paradigms, dogma, collectively old school thinking are what's holding lots of organizations back in essentially the Stone Age or the Dark Ages relative to what's possible when you do things properly. So the old way of doing things, the old school way of managing is managing people like things. And we already talked about the concept of trying to fix people like we fix a piece of equipment and having more rules and more tools and more requirements and more policemen like the safety Nazis that are out there. Maybe you're one of them. Making sure people are wearing their PPE and everything else. That is old school. And having it be a fireable offense if you do something that's wrong safety-wise. Well, again, this is old school thinking. There's a much, much better way, and that's what we're going to talk about. So if you're ensconced in any of that, if you are involved in any of that, if your mind is set in any of that, then as Yoda taught us, the first thing you need to do is unlearn some of that old stuff that you've learned, because we're going to take a whole new approach to human performance. Now, when you do this and you do this right, this is where we're getting into, as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, this thing called perturbation. This was a concept proven and developed by a guy named Ilya Prigogine, who won the Nobel Peace Prize in Chemistry in 1977. And the concept here is when you take an element or you take something and you apply energy to it, at some point it crosses over a threshold and it changes into something completely different. And it's a non-reversible process. So once it's gone that way, it can't go back. So the example here is, this is a piece of coal. I don't know if you can tell what that is from this picture or not. And if you think about a piece of coal that's in the earth over eons of time, it has a lot of heat and a lot of pressure applied to it. And over time, it will evolve, and once it crosses a threshold, it transforms into something completely different. In this case, that's a diamond, right? Now, the thing is, you had an element, you had something, you did something to it, you put different types of energy to it, it crosses this threshold, transforms into something different. A diamond can never go back to being coal. It's not possible. Well, what I'm going to tell you is, this approach to human performance does the same thing to a team. Once you get this turned on and you do it right, that team will transform into something completely different, and it will never go back to the way it was before.
If you're finding these insights helpful, please share them with your friends and colleagues. Help your search engine find more content like this for you by hitting the like button before you leave. And if these PPI messages resonate with you, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, my friend, be safe, stay humble, and make a difference.